Hello?
No.
Okay, so we have Amy Bircher with us. She's founder and CEO of MMI Textiles. We have Cameron Hamrick with us, president of Hamrick Mills, president and CEO of Parkdale Mills, Charles. We have Eddie Ingle with us, CEO and director of Unifi. Of course, Leib, Oehmig, CEO of Glen and executive vice president of strategic initiatives, Jeff Price with Milliken Company. So what I'd like to do is we're going to run around the table here and just take, there's 6 of us, 6 panelists, and we have about a half hour to talk about the past, so that's 5 minutes apiece, so we'll get this moving. Amy, do you want to tell us about founding MMI Textiles in '97?
Sure thing. Good afternoon, everyone. So MMI was founded on September 1st, 1997, so celebrating 25 years. Pretty proud of that. And it started as a person of one, but an arsenal of hundreds, because before MMI had evolved or started, I grew up as a little kid in a dyeing and finishing facility in South Carolina, which that's usually the question I get is, how the heck did you end up in this industry? And you're in Cleveland, Ohio. So we, again, are proud to be celebrating 25 years, and there's some history for you there with the past before MMI, which was National Dye Works.
That's great. Cameron?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say it's such an honor to be here and be on this dynamic panel. It's an esteemed group of industry leaders. I'd like to say thank you to Dan Sistrunk for asking me to be on the panel. He's a titan of the industry and a good friend of mine, and I love a good conference, so thank you. I do visit with so many people in this room, and those of you who do know me know that I love the textile industry. And congratulations on your 50 years, and I really think that you guys have a great theme with knowledge and relationships. And I was telling Jeff and Lee in the lobby earlier that I might be a little heavy on the relationship and a little light on the knowledge side, so I'm always willing and ready to learn. But I believe in conferences such as this to learn, educate, and of course to network. I'm the president of Hamrick Mills. Hamrick Mills is a 122-year-old family weaving company in Gaffney, South Carolina. I'm the 5th generation, and I'm the 5th generation family member that has the opportunity to run the company, so I'm very grateful for that. We have 2 manufacturing facilities in Gaffney, South Carolina. One of them is vertical. We can start with the bales of fiber and come out the back door with the gray goods, and the other plant is strictly weaving. So our background and some product offerings that we've had over the last 122 years is home furnishings. Just think bed sheetings, anything top of the bed. We've done everything from the run and gun commodities across the whole hemisphere to some specialty bed manufacturing for niche products. Window treatments, think blackout curtains, shades, etc. Furniture decking, we've been heavily in furniture decking for like the past 20 years. Just think when you take a piece of furniture and move a cushion up, that fabric that's holding the spring down in the foam is furniture decking, and we've been offering that for 20 years. We also offer napery products and trying to grow that side of the business. And on the apparel side, over the years, we're mainly with workwear and uniforms, shirting, so we're medium to lightweight fabrics, Oxford shirtings, U.S. postal shirtings, think scrubs. We definitely pivoted hard into the scrubs during the pandemic, and fortunately that was already a segment and a product offering that we had. And actually during 2020, I think our product offering probably went 40% scrubs, so that's right in our wheelhouse. We're big in pocketing and interlining, so we make the pocketing fabric and then ship it around the whole hemisphere. We go in Dickie pants, Carhartt pants, etc. We do tape substrates We've been doing tape substrates for 20 plus years. Think the coach's tape from Johnson & Johnson. The cotton substrates that's behind the adhesive is Hamrick fabric. And we do hot tape substrates. You told me you wanted me to be in charge here.
And he's accepting purchase orders.
We also do American flag fabrics. And
your cards are available.
yeah, absolutely. I'm always ready to network, okay? Let me just say about our versatility, how versatile we actually are. We make anywhere from 39 inches to 135 inches fabrics. We're singular in some of the wide offerings in the hemisphere. And we have great partnerships. I pretty much work with every person on this panel, every company on this panel, almost on a monthly basis, except for Leib, and we're going to work a deal out by the end of the day. Okay? So
You better let him talk.
yeah, we'll get to that. I contribute a lot of our long-term liability to no long-term debt. A lot of praying to God to try to figure out, stay ahead of the curve, staying totally customer focused, and concentrating on our manufacturing innovations and high efficiencies. And of course, like I said, it's all about the supply chain. So it's been good for Hamrick Mills. We're a mainstay in the industry, and we're here to try to make it another 122 years. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much.
We enjoyed it.
Charles, what did you give us a little?
I'm just following directions.
That's great.
You only had 2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes. And it's an honor to be up here with Cameron. And I'm with Parkdale Mills, and we have 8 singles, 9 singles. I'm just kidding. So it's an honor for Parkdale Mills to be up here, and of course synthetic yarn. Not many people think about Parkdale. But in a little bit of the history, we, like Hamrick, are 122 years old, and Mr. Kimbrell is upon his return from World War II, started with our second plant. And Mr. Warlick joined us in the 80s and became a buyer of assets. 2008, we bought our first consumer products company. We continue to expand today. We're looking to expand into the future. Our most recent investments have been in synthetics, where we spent about $35 million in R&D, and we're coming up with new products to try to innovate textile fibers and use the yarn as a carrier for technology. So, you know what? We're excited to be here. We have a long history. We're proud of it. Still privately held, and try to be a good steward of the globe's assets. So, if my 2 minutes is up, I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
We'll come back. Well, let's go to Unifi now. And Eddie, if you want to give us a little bit of background, a little bit different than some of the other companies with George, Alan, eBay.
Yeah, I did hear Alan Madden's name mentioned several times from the previous speaker. Apologies in advance for Alan not joining the first 15 years we didn't join, but we eventually joined as a company. We have been around for 50 years, and it's interesting. This organization's around 50 years. We've been around 51 years. This organization's around 50 years. So we were started right before this organization was started. So Cameron, it is a real pleasure to be able to speak here and talk about the efforts of this great textile industry. Unifi. We had a phrase early on, doing one thing and doing it well, and that's basically texturing yarn. And we took the POI, that was mentioned earlier, and turned it into a product that could be woven or knitted. We merged with Blackfield in 1991, that went to double our size, and we rode the wave. I tell some of the young people in the industry that the textile business in the 90s was like Silicon Valley. Think about the wealth that was created, the jobs that was created, the livelihoods that was created, and Unifi was just part of that. And Alan Nevin was charged towards being the lowest cost producer of yarn. He was a very competitive person, as everybody who knew him, but he was also very thoughtful. The reason why we have a lot of automation in Unifi and invested a lot of money in automation because we wanted to take out some of the really hard jobs. And that was his sort of mantra: make it easy, use your brain power more than your muscle power to make things work. Then during the 2000s, we obviously had the downturn of the whole textile industry. We generated ourselves by focusing overseas in Brazil and in Asia, but also by creating a new recycled brand called Rebranding. And that really is the path forward for Unifi. So you'll hear more about that as we talk in this panel. But really honored to be here talking today on behalf of Unifi.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Leib, can you share a little bit of the history of Glen Raven? You can start in 1880 if you like, but...
I'll be real quick on that. First of all, I read the email wrong because I thought this was a roast of Jeff Price today. I'm about to retire, but
we can shift gears.
look, we all have a lot of love for Jeff and what he's done for this industry, and I know that you all will congratulate him as he's about to embark on a well-deserved retirement. So I represent Glen Raven. Glen Raven was founded in 1880. We do a lot of work with Kellogg School at Northwestern, and we're not a big company, but for a company our size, we're one of the few that is still 100% owned by the descendants of the founder. And it's a very closely held company, and it continues to be. So John Q. Gant founded Glen Raven in 1880. He walked home from the Civil War, spent 3 years on the Gant farm, and said, "No, enough of that." So he wanted to be a merchant. He wanted to be a manufacturer. So in 1880 is when it all started. And just one fun fact, and I'll turn it back over in terms of history. Glen Raven, we think about Glen Raven, 142 years old, and like many of you, we acquire and we divest and we scaled up new businesses, etc. But at the core of Glen Raven is really 3 other businesses in addition to Glen Raven proper. Founded in 1836, 1860, 1876, and then of course Glen Raven in 1880, so we're the youngest of the siblings. So there's a lot of history within this family and their love and their commitment to the textile industry.
Thank you very much. That's great. Jeff, if you could lead us in to the oldest company, or one of the oldest here, 1865. But I think you want to move forward to 1947 with Roger taking over and really focusing on research.
Yeah, I'll start first of all. Since you brought Andy into your conversation, obviously Andy was trained at Norton first, so to begin with in regard to that. Instead of trying to take you all the way back to 1865, I thought I would start with where some of you in this room probably had some touch points with Roger Milliken when he became president of the company in 1947. And the way I like to kind of think about our history from that point forward is really kind of around 3 different eras for the company. The first one I would frame up would be from the mid-1940s to the late 1970s, which I would put under the umbrella of research and innovation. In 1945, we founded the Milliken Research Center, and to date, we're approaching 6,000 patents from that effort. If you think about some innovative type products that occurred, and to kind of put this in context, it was in the mid-1960s that these were developed. So we came out with our Belfast, which was the first self-iron fabric. We came out with Visa, which was the first soil release type fabric. And in addition to product innovations, Mr. Milliken was well known for innovations in regard to the manufacturing site. In 1944, we had the first textile plant with air conditioning, and so on and so on. And like Leib said, growth through acquisitions. We acquired Textron division of textiles at that point, Callaway Mills in that same time frame, etc. Then you kind of move on from the 1970s to what I would call around 2000, and I would kind of frame that up as raising the bar around excellence with a strong focus on operational excellence. Mr. Milliken understood that we were going to be moving into a global environment from the industry standpoint, and in 1971 he launched the Pursuit of Excellence program, which was really transformational for the company and changing our culture to really focus on 2 things: cost competitiveness and customer satisfaction. And that both of those 2 areas really became part of the foundation for our total DNA as a company. And then you kind of look from the early 2000s to the present. I kind of put that one in redefining who we are. And really two major events there for us. When you look at Milliken when I started in '79, the company doesn't look anything like it did then. So we had to reinvent ourselves, we had to recognize the global trends and find avenues where we could compete and bring the science to the solutions of it all. And then on top of that, in 2010, when Mr. Milliken passed, we had to define who we were as a company. Because if you had talked to anybody at that point in time and said something about Milliken and Company, the first thing they would say, oh, Roger Milliken. So we had to really think about what it meant to be a company without a patriarch who had a history of that nature. And some of you may not know this, but the new Milliken logo that came out shortly thereafter is really a combination of his signatures over time. So we wanted to make sure we kept that legacy as we tried to define the future that we want to be.
Thank you, that's terrific. Let's talk about the fact that, okay, history's important and it kind of leads us to the point where, so we got here, but where the heck are we? And so we can kind of open it up with some general questions about current sense of the industry. What was the effect of COVID on your companies? Everybody was talking about supply chain challenges. You know, is there anything there? So let's each of the companies take a good size 5 minutes or so. Jeff, why don't you continue and give us a sense of where the industry is today and the challenges you're facing.
Great question. You know, in my 43 years with the company, I don't know that we ever faced anything like we faced the last several years. First of all, there was no playbook for COVID. We had to write that. A lot of collaboration within the industry as we all tried to figure out what that meant for our companies and the safety of our employees. And then as that trickled down into supply chains and workforce labor issues and availability of whatever, it was really a perfect storm. You know, in my past, we usually have one or two opportunities we had to address. But I believe during the last 2.5 years, we've had multiple battlefronts that we've had to fight through and think through. Still not sure that the smoke is cleared fully in the room yet in regard to those outcomes and what it's going to look like. Then you get the tail end of that and start looking at inflation. So now we really have a perfect storm. So I don't know how much more detail you want to get into.
We'll come back around, but that's, what do you think? Want to give it a shot, Charles?
Okay. I'll try, but thinking about COVID, number one, Kim, raise your hand, please. You can't think about COVID without thinking about Kim Glass. And for our organization, you know, we had a response, and I'd like to believe that we had a pretty big response. But Kim was the industry leader for all of us during that time and opened up a lot of doors, and because of the work that she did, saved a lot of businesses. So Kim, thank you very much for that. You know, aside from that, I think one of the things that COVID did for all of us, and maybe changed the perspective of how we're going to look at the future, is we had to lean on each other. Because everything had to be made in America, everything had to be sourced locally. So next thing you know, our contact list grew, our friends grew. We started pulling for each other. And I think that is rolling over into how we feel about our industry from 2022, 2023 and beyond. You know, early on when we talked about history, pre-1996, we were fighting each other. Post-2023, we're pulling for each other. And that's a real transformation from in the industry. And I think that how we look at it and perceive each other, and we tend to have this supporting mentality today versus a competitive mentality. Now, we're all competitors, don't get me wrong, but we like it when we see other people succeed. And that transformation came to us through COVID. It taught us a lot of lessons. We're still here. And yes, Jeff is right. I mean, we think about what's going on today, it's kind of the perfect storm. COVID knocked us down. We got back up. Inflation's trying to knock us back down. Right? This is a little bit of a tough period that we're going to go through. But thanks to Kim, thanks to COVID, I see a bright future ahead.
So it's fair to say the industry caught a case of collaboration.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
That's great. Amy, what's your take on things? You know, where's the industry stand for you today? You're in kind of a different niche than some of these folks.
So first of all, I do business with every single person at this table and many of you in the audience, and I can echo Charles' words about Kim Glass, can't thank her enough, and honestly the NCTO staff during COVID. We were an organization that pivoted very quickly, and we were an organization that was like all of you that a week before everything happened, you're wondering what's going to happen to your business. And we have always been known for collaboration in our industry. That is a pillar of our success. We are collaborators, we're partners, we value them all through our supply chain. That is really what has made MMI successful, and it's going to be what continues to make all of us in our industry successful. So a perfect story on that is when COVID happened, and as Charles mentioned, we're cheering for each other, right? It was pretty unbelievable, the heroic efforts of our industry. You know, even people outside of our industry, friends of in our communities that are not in the textile industry are going, man, the textile industry is getting, you know, a good piece, right? They're getting not the black eye that they've had for 20 years. They're getting a lot of great press and a lot of great things going on. But we had a couple of pretty significant military customers had no idea where to go to get raw materials for, non-woven raw materials for PPE. They called me on a Saturday and said, we're opening up our factories, we were shut down, we're deemed essential, they want us to make gowns and masks for the state of New York. Can you help us? We have no idea where to go. Well, thankfully, with the way that we treat our business and our partners and collaborate, I have a Rolodex, if you will, of a number of relationships that I've had for a long, long time, and they all wanted help, right? They all wanted to help me. So within 3 months, we probably shipped out, millions of yards of PPE fabric. And a true 3-month heroic effort that was really awesome to see. And we took that, that win, if you will, of 2020, and we invested it back significantly into the industry with the opening of our Lenore facility for weaving narrow fabrics. So that's a good story.
That's great. Thank you very much. Let's go to Eddie. Eddie, what's your take on this current state of the industry, impact on supply chains, COVID, et cetera? Have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think, and the speaker just talked about the early days of COVID, but I think there is a very long tail of COVID. And for us, coming out of COVID, business was coming back, and it seemed like we solved all the problems. But I think what we didn't realize, there were so many other things that were going to happen and unfold that we had no idea of. And I think for us, we've become more agile. And I think any company, all these companies here have become more agile. We have become more collaborative. But what we don't know is what we don't know, because I think there's a lot more to come because of COVID. We're in the midst of what's happening in the Ukraine war, or what's going to happen with crude oil. Management has never, I don't think, ever been in a situation. When 2009 happened, I was 57 now, so I was just over 42, and it was sort of a playbook. It was a classic recession. Today, we've got 3.5% unemployment, and we're talking about a recession. We've got interest rates rising, but most people are in 3% mortgages. We've got the no housing crisis, we've got the housing. We have a lot more uncertainty, I think, because of the long tail of COVID. And I think what happened over the last 2 years has prepared us really well as an industry to deal with that. And the other thing that's happened is the American public respects manufacturing, U.S. textile industry, as you mentioned, like never before. And I think we should be all really proud of that.
That's great. Cameron, why don't you take a swipe at this and let us know what you think about the current state of the industry. You have some broad exposure.
Yes, sir, thank you. Well, think about it, the perfect storm and the ripple effect of COVID, because the supply chain issues was derived from COVID. A lot of the labor shortages was derived from COVID, and the free money that went out because of COVID created some of the inflationary items that we're seeing. So the perfect storm created a lot of bad scenarios for business, but we've touched on some things that are good. And I think, like right at the present moment, that I'm very concerned about the demand and the labor situation we have. I've got 3 or 4 family members at Hamrick Mills that You know, they've been there 47 to 50 years and they've never seen anything like the uncertainty, the volatility, you know, cotton going from here to there, the unstable labor, and it's every leg of the stool is wobbly. And so there's a lot of challenges out there. But like we said, we touched on the good. We see the importance of the supply chain. We see the importance of the NCTO. We see the importance of the organizations that are working together. But all in all, COVID created a lot of major issues that's going to be hard to work through. And I think the most glaring is the labor shortage, because I think the labor shortage in turn made us less competitive, where I feel like that we've lost some market share because of our pricing overall.
And what about wage rates?
I think that most everybody in the industry is giving 3 wage rate increases in the last year and a half to 2 years. And of course, that's just an extra expense. And now the supply chain's freeing up a little bit. We're having to compete against the Eastern Hemisphere, you know, in the same manner. So it's very tricky to navigate. But it's like the panel said, there's been some good and some bad that's come out of COVID for our industry. Hopefully we can just capitalize on the good and work hard to get through the bad. But it's challenging. It's super challenging.
Thank you. Lee, why don't you take us about where the industry is today, COVID, and possibly share the fact that you do have some Chinese exposure, so you're kind of unique.
Yeah, we do. I think all that's been said about COVID applies to this entire industry, and back to Kim, a lot of phone calls there, but also for the rest of you, who at a time when you were worried about saving your own business and protecting the customers that you have in your core markets, you did answer the call. And I can tell you that has elevated this industry in the minds of a lot of people. Now, we want to see that translated into reshoring of PPE and how we're sourcing, and Kim and her team work on that every day. But this industry really stepped up during that time period. You know, we have global exposure. You know, have historically been U.S. centric, but over the last 30 years, we really looked at global expansion as opportunities. Never chased the low-cost rainbow. For us, it's where new markets exist. And so as we were going through COVID, we actually watched it move from our business hub in Asia, when they were hearing what was really going on there, through Europe. We have a large construction company in India that we're a part of. So we've kind of watched it move, and so we were prepared as best we could be, although we clearly have learned a lot. And so the challenges are where they are. You know, you go from a pandemic, and then an expectation of inflation, I think, has probably grown much larger than any of us anticipated, and the impact that it's having on the economy. But I prefer to look at the opportunities that are going to come on the backside of this when we push off the bottom. Part of this panel has talked about the relationships and the new relationships that have been formed among all of you, and the innovations that can come out of that will create, incredible opportunities and new opportunities. You know, we have a presence in 23 countries, but we're talking about nearshoring, or the investments and the U.S. investments that they're looking to make through Central and South America. In this Western Hemisphere, there's going to be incredible opportunity for this industry. And I think if we're focused on innovation, how we're creating sustainable differentiation for current and prospective customers, then we got a heck of a future in this industry, and we'll navigate through this rough period, and then let's focus our energy on what comes next.
Today, let's switch gears and stay with you, Leib, because I know that Glen has a great interest in sustainability. You've made great investments, and you have a fuel column plan. If you want to talk about that for a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the companies represented here probably have similar attitudes towards sustainability. And like Glen, so many of you have been doing it long before so much of the conversation centered around sustainability. And the same is true for Glen. But now people want to know. I mean, you heard Mara earlier today talking about the impact that it has on Walmart and their customers want to know what you're doing. So now it's being able to articulate that as an industry and as individual companies in terms of what we're doing. And so for Glen Raven, I mean, whether it was hydroelectric power back in the 30s or 15 years ago when we saw this move to renewable energy, we didn't know what we didn't know. So we made the investment in South Carolina. We now own one of the largest privately held solar installations in South Carolina. We've got a sister, different technology, but a sister installation in North Carolina, but that is so that we can learn, and we want to continue to do so. So whether it's protecting people and being a really responsible part of this global community, and as part of that, protecting the planet, we have, like the companies represented here, we've driven a stake in the ground so that we can hold ourselves accountable for what has generally come natural to so many of us, just from a cultural standpoint, and reflecting the values of our founders. But it's an incredibly important part of what we're doing going forward.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. Eddie, I think we have to go to you because you built a business about sustainability with Reprieve before it was even fashionable back in 2007.
Yeah, it's, if you look at our history, I guess for our sins, we figured out we had to, for all the virgin polyester we made, we had to make a lot of recycled polyester, and we built this brand called Reprieve. In fact, we trademarked it in 2001. We applied for the trademark, we got it in 2003. And it's hard to imagine what we were thinking back then because we didn't really have a product, we didn't have a technology, there was no market, but it seemed like a good thing. We had gone through a process of going from a virgin commodity producer to a PVA at the time, premier value-added producer of yarns. And somebody said, well, we should have a recycled solution. And that was the genesis of that. And I know Charlie King's been on this probably stage before. He helped us, he was one of the key technical people that helped us build out a textured polyester yarn that was as good as virgin. And that was the key for Unifi's growth. And you had people like Patagonia that were interested in doing, people like Polartec made the fabric they were interested in doing. So I remember having a conversation with Dalton and Michael one time, and one question he said, you should always ask yourself, is there a market for it? And there was no real market for it back in 2001. But today, if you're not a sustainable company, you're not sustainable. And I think that's, this is what Viva said, the reason why they're still around for so long is because their mindset has always been about reducing waste and increasing value. And that, to me, is what sustainability is. We're really proud of the fact that 37% of the yarn sales we had last year were made of Reprieve. We're really proud of the fact that it's not just out of Asia, but a huge part of what we do here in the US and Central America is made of Reprieve. We're really proud of the fact that people like, there's somebody from Walmart here, I shouldn't brag about one retailer, but Walmart has done an amazing job of focusing sustainability. They have said, their CEO said, we have to be sustainable. And sustainability is not just about raw material, it's about your people. It's about energy. It's about what resources you can reutilize to make a product. And when you have big companies, big retailers like Walmart who are really focused on becoming more sustainable and not just putting solar panels on the roofs of their stores, in everything they do, and pushing suppliers in the same way they pushed suppliers to have low cost, they're also pushing suppliers to be more sustainable, and you get points for that. And I think we all have to recognize, we all have to do our part. And so when anybody here takes this bottle and puts it in the trash, think twice. Go ahead and take the extra 2 steps and move it towards putting it, recycling it, because we need that material. It's not waste, it's a resource. And we're proud of the fact our team, one of the things that has happened in Unifi, the young people, we don't have a hard time attracting young managers, young graduates, because they want to be sustainable. They want to work with companies that are doing the right thing. And I would encourage all of you to continue to do more of what you're doing in that space.
Thank you, that's great. Charles, you have some interesting things going on with sustainability and CYFA and some other areas.
We do, and we're real proud. You know, we have a consumer products business, so I'm not sure if you're aware, but we make almost all the cotton swabs, cotton balls, makeup remover pads. We have a very large market share in the United States. And gosh, 6 years ago, there was a real issue in London where wet wipes were clogging municipal water systems. So Bob Usher, who's kind of a famous researcher, we called him and said, hey, we need a dissolvable wet wipe. Cotton wipes are too expensive, so build us one. And he came back and he said, hey, I'm doing it, but I'm turning it to powder too fast, but there's this really neat technology out in California. We went out to California and we bought what is half of what's known today as SYFA. And it aids in the degradation of polyester. So if you're not going to recycle it, or recycle it, either way, the SYFA technology works and continues to work. In a normal landfill, it allows polyester to degrade at the same rate, basically the same rate as cotton or wool. You want any more information than that, Cheryl out there in the field will teach you. Another interesting technology that we came up with is called die-true, and it allows polyester to dye below boil. So kind of been done a little bit before, but this is dyeing below boil with 30% of the dye stuffs that are normally used. And this has been tested and proven time and time again. So when we think about utilizing the world's resources, we are trying to become a solution provider for innovative synthetics. Now, think about this from a bigger perspective. Let's go out to 2050. In 2050, cotton's going to be a luxury fiber. We're not going to use arable land and water on non-food crops, which means synthetics has to fill the void. Now let's go back 50 years. We made apparel in nylon, cotton, polyester, rayon, maybe some acrylic, right? Today, 50 years later, we make apparel out of nylon, acrylic, polyester. Where's the innovation? Where's the new fiber? Where's the new, we have to think different. We have to think different as an industry. 2050 is coming fast. Cotton's going to be gone. What's the next luxury fiber that's going to be out there? What is it going to be? Are we going to sit up here in 10, 15 more years and say, we make apparel out of polyester, rayon, nylon, acrylic? We have to invest. And we have to invest in new technologies, innovative technologies. And guess what else we have to invest in? Eddie, thank you for leading into this. We have to invest in people, right? And our company tries really hard. Eddie said they're doing a great job of attracting young people, and I applaud them. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for us. Look around the room. How many 20-somethings are we seeing? Who was your mentor? Who are you mentoring? Right? We have to think this way. Julie, thank you for being here. And I assure you the next time you're going to come, you're going to see 50 more people that are under the age of 30. Right? 50 more people under the age of 30. That's what we ought to be thinking every single day, because in order for us to have a sustainable business in the United States, we need youth. And I thought about doing this, but I'm not going to. If we had to raise our hands, how many people in this room are going to retire in the next 10 years? I personally have close to 30, and I didn't want to do it. But I'm almost bald. I'm not quite as bad as Leib, but I'm catching them quick. But if I sit there and I think about who were my mentors, what they did for me when I was 25, 26, 27, 28, and what it turned me into, I'm very thankful and I'm very gracious. And we got to think as a team, what are we going to do for the next generation that's coming along? We have to age this down. And in order to have a sustainable business in this hemisphere, we got to invest. Invest in sustainable technologies and sustainable businesses. And a lot of that means youth, right? So let's go out and recruit, let's teach, let's educate, and let's find our people that we're going to mentor, and we're going to bring them along. Sorry to rant, but...
No. It sounds like you should talk to Harry Shute.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeff, why don't you take us into sustainability of Milliken?
Okay. So I think about it as I think about the future for Milliken. First of all, we're going to build on what I already talked about through the research and innovation and through the operational excellence that is core for our company's DNA. But as I think about the themes of the future, sustainability definitely comes to the top. But not only in just product. We got to think about the life and regard to the life cycle for our products, what that means. We also got to think about what it means to the performance of our products. So as we think about sustainability, we've got to figure out ways to maintain and improve the performance and deal with sustainability all at the same time. And then we also got to think about the sustainability of how we manufacture our stuff. Milliken has now signed up for the science-based targets on greenhouse gases. So we have signed up to become carbon neutral by 2050. Have no clue how we're going to do it. But we got to figure it out, and technology is going to have to help us figure it out. And to Charles's point, the youth of this country is going to have to help us figure out those problems. The second thing I would think about is the workforce, which you've heard several people already refer to. We have an aging workforce in our plants. And not only is it finding bodies to replace them, the knowledge that they bring to the table, the experiences that they have. I mean, we have people within Milliken who are 30, 40, and 50 years of service. And that knowledge is just irreplaceable. So how do we capture that knowledge? How do we transfer that knowledge? And then how do we find people who want to do those jobs today? And then, so that leads to, well, are we going to be able to do that? The answer is probably no. So now we're going to have to start thinking about how automation plays into our manufacturing footprint and where we can make those justifications to supplement the workforce and the needs that we have there. And then we have to think about digital and what digital is going to do for us in regard to information and process of information. How do we combine machine data and non-machine data so that we can make better real-time decisions? Because we're not going to have those people who've had 50 years of running that machine and knowing what it does and what it doesn't do in regard to all that. And then the other one that I am very convicted on is nearshoring opportunities. This industry for years has been on the defensive. And through NCTO support and a lot of you in this room, et cetera, we have a unique opportunity now to be on the offensive. All the global trends that you've talked about and heard about today are going to give us some opportunities as products start to nearshore. We need to capitalize on those as an industry as a total. So I think those are the real key future themes that we've got to focus on.
Thank you very much. Amy, what do you think about sustainability? How's it affecting your company, what you're doing, and what you're seeing demand in the marketplace for products?
Sure. So we actually created a new sustainable line we worked on about 3 years ago. It's called EcoThrive, and it actually incorporates 2 fabrics that have SYFA in it, as you probably know, or maybe don't, but Cheryl does. But we have all Reprieve. If it's recycled polyester, it's Reprieve. And it goes all the way down to PFAS-free finishes if we incorporate any kind of finish to it. So it's been on our radar as an organization for a long time, and we've put the money into investing in this line of fabrics about 4 years ago. And in fact, Julie, Carla Magruder was my consultant for me who helped me create that sustainable line. So it was great to see her picture up there. I sent her a note this afternoon. And as far as anything else is future-wise, we're very passionate about staying relevant and being different, and we are very different. So, again, for us, innovation is going to be looking at things that are waterless, dyeing and finishing. We're doing trials on that right now. We are very committed to what this footprint looks like long-term, right? And what is that going to do from our industry as a whole? What are we going to continue to do to work together on the circularity of things? And that's not easy. We've had a lot of conversations with military advisors that are saying that the military wants to repurpose stock product, right, that has never been used, and it's in their warehouses and it's expensive Kevlars and things like that. They don't. What are they going to do with it, right? But it's not easy to actually then tear apart those materials, repurpose them, but it has to be done, right? And those conversations are real and they're happening. But for MMI as a company, it's immensely important for us. I think hemp is going to be huge and should be something that we're talking about. We're talking about now, but as Charles started saying, nylon, polyester, acrylic, cotton, all the other the fibers we're using 50 years ago, the fibers we're using now, what else are we going to be saying? And hemp is out there, right? But it's not been a USA product. There's a lot of work that's been done, and we're very much involved in that and staying on the forefront. Again, the people asset side, I just want to comment on that. I have I'm lucky to have quite a young workforce and have been able to retain a lot of them. I think I'd like to say, and people who know me know I'm pretty passionate about this, we have to work together. We have to stop siloing ourselves and being protective, and this is mine, and I'm in this industry, and you know, we do compete. Everybody competes some way. It's not. We don't have to look at it like that, right? If you do something really well, and you're manufacturing something in your space that is great for the industry, certainly great for MMI, we're not going to get into that. We're going to come to you and say, this is our development. We want to partner with you because you already have all the people, right? We're investing in the brand and the sales and the marketing and the innovation and the development, right? And those two can work really well together. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be on an island. So utilize your network of cross talents to work together.
Thank you. That's great. Why don't we close out that subject with Cameron, if you want to talk about it.
Sure. I'll just say that this panel has had the best sustainability answers that I've ever heard in my life. Because they're talking realistically about the industry, about the survival of the whole industry, the labor force, the electricities, the competitiveness, and so on and so forth. A lot of times when we talk sustainability, we just get focused on just the environment, but the sustainability of the whole industry is the way that we all think. And Hamrick Mills is always striving and excited to try to work with Reprieve. We've been running Reprieve for years. Ciclo, there's some opportunities that's been presented to us in the last few weeks that we'll be eager to try to take advantage and get into that supply chain. So I think it's going to be more of the the knowledge and the relationships that we've been talking about the whole time, just to be open and to move toward these type of sustainable practices that is going to work for our companies, it's going to work for our environment, and it's going to work economically. I think that, you know, that's going to be a challenge, and that's what we have to work together, is to make it work economically.
Great. What do you think about the points raised about youth in your workforce?
It's a very big challenge, and it's like Charles said, that we have to be intentional about mentoring and trying to show them the way in the future, and just hope and pray that the people that are coming to us is willing to learn, because they have to be willing to be led and to be mentored. And so I think it's a challenge, but the management team and us as owners have to step up and mentor and teach and keep it interesting and make sure that there's money there that keeps them interested.
That's great. Let's talk about a broad subject, and you can take it several different directions. Let's talk about fossil fuels in general. Let's talk about oil as a crude product, and not just for fuel, but for the bottom 20% of the barrel that goes into so many products. And let's talk about energy and energy prices in general and how they're affecting your companies. I think it's probably, Eddie, if you want to jump in there first.
I'm glad you got that question, folks.
That's one of my favorites.
It's one of your favorites.
No, I think peak oil has not happened yet. It'll probably happen in 2030. Oil is 60% used for transportation, and with the move towards electrification of cars, there will be less demand, but it's going to take us another 8 or 9 years before the demand starts dropping. It's always been a geopolitical situation, which is not a good thing. You see the Saudis now trying to reinvent their country. They're actually trying to make it a tourist destination now, which is good because they're now having to liberalize some of the very what I would rigid, I'm not going to criticize the country, but women are now beginning to drive cars, which is kind of a weird concept to us. But I think we've talked a lot about Elon Musk, whatever he is, but his move, he single-handedly moved entire industries towards electrification of cars. And we will see by 2050, nobody's going to, maybe the people will drive gas cars and they'll pay a lot of money for the gasoline, but as we move away from oil, we become less dependent on something that was created by plants many years ago, and we'll be using more regenerative. Hopefully we'll be use more nuclear. But what it means is there'll be more oil available to us to make more polyester or some other new fibers. I don't think we should be embarrassed at all by the fact that we use polyester. Polyester is a polycondensation reaction. You know what that means? Water is a byproduct when you make polyester. Wow, that's cool. Maybe you can turn that water into hydrogen and you can drive a truck on a hydrogen. So we should be celebrating the fact that we are incredibly efficient with resources. Only 5% of the world's oil goes into petrochemicals, and polyester is only 6% of the world's polymers created. So, and the whole if you add polyester and acrylic and nylon, it's probably 6% of the world's polymers. So, for me, for our company, it's about using less waste, using more recycled content, buying autocon machines. We're investing $100 million in the Americas because we believe that there is a business here. We believe that reshoring of business is going to happen, but we have to do it very, very efficiently. And I think energy and labor are the two key components that we have to constantly strive towards doing better. And just one other thing when it comes to labor, I think having more females into the leadership of any organization is incredibly important. That makes you a more sustainable organization. We're trying to do it ourselves, not just because we're trying to be more diverse, but it works. And so energy, going back to the energy topic, you've got to use less of it, you've got to be more efficient, you've got to be more conscious about what is impacting the climate. But I think I see it as an opportunity more than a thing to worry about.
That's great, thank you. Leib, why don't you help us with this question?
So on the energy question, I think we've all stated our commitment to transition to renewables. I'm not going to take the approach that Eddie took. He's forgotten more about that, the science of that, than I know. So, but what I do want to say, we've got a significant presence for us in Europe, both from an operational standpoint and obviously from both customers and from an entire supply chain. And the only thing, and I've said it to many up here, and I would say it to any politician that's listening, that it seems to have become very much, a political, as much a political as it is all of us wanting to do the right thing. The only point I'm making here is making sure that we have a thoughtful transition plan as we all continue along this journey. Because as you saw on the charts earlier today, the issue that's going on in Europe right now, it didn't start when Putin walked across into Ukraine. It started a year earlier or longer, where we had customers of ours who were already facing 300% and 400% increases in their macro level energy costs. Had already started shutting down some of their assets, and we've seen the entire industry sector shut down. So the only point is we're all in, right? We're all committed along this journey. But let's just make sure that in the U.S. that we have a thoughtful transition plan, because nobody wants to be left with stranded assets, and everybody wants to continue down the path. We ought to be able to find a way, we're smart enough to find a way to have a nice transition there, or a better, more meaningful transition.
That's great, that's great. Jeff, this must affect Milliken, and Milliken chemicals. I mean, there's a broad impact for your company.
Yeah, and I think, I echo what's been said already. But, when you step back and look at the bigger picture, we can't fail in this question around energy and how we make it for the future. Our kids depend on us figuring it out. And I can tell you that through initiative on the science-based targets and trying to understand what the goals are, much less how to reach them and how to measure them and how to think about them, has already created a lot of conversation within our company that we didn't have a year ago. And again, if you think there's clear-cut answers, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. But what I have been encouraged about is the fact that we're now at least asking a question. And I think that is the start. And I have seen enough from not only this industry, but this country, that if we ask the right questions, we will find solutions. And our survival depends on us doing that. I wish I had more specifics than that, but that's to me is the big picture.
Charles, I know you had something to add.
Yeah, I look at energy, we're going to lose our competitive advantage in the Southeast United States with low-cost energy. It's just going to happen. We used to pay 2-3 cents a kilowatt hour. We're going to 8, 10, 12. So those days are going to move. We're going to lose it. The big thing is, for energy and rising energy costs, is just to use less. It does not make sense to take natural resources, move them 3,000 miles to another place to make something else and move it halfway around the world to make a garment and bring it back to the United States. You want to save energy? Source local. Think about that when you think about transportation moves and you think about the total cost of a garment, the carbon footprint of all this taking place, and what we're doing today is not sustainable. We have to change the way that we think about sourcing textile goods. Globally, number one way to combat high-cost energy, use less.
Pretty straight up.
Yeah.
Cameron, any thoughts on this?
Sure. It's like Charlie said, that the textile industry has had a baseline of competitiveness with competitive energy prices, and unfortunately that is coming to an end, and I'll second what he says about efficiencies and using less and finding technology where we can put panels out with less electricity. And I'd love to see to a point in time, because it's kind of in flux like everything else, where energy prices really just went up dramatically in South Carolina. It's like 25%. So I'd love to see it be back down, and to where it's another piece of the pie that we can put the feather in our cap and think that is a competitive advantage. We have good, reliable energy at a good price. And we don't want to see that leave. But it's just like everything else we've talked about, is the sustainability, the economics of it. How can we find a way to use less and to continue to compete?
Very good. Thank you. Amy, what impact is this having on you, not just as energy, but as a component in some of the fabrics and things that you buy? And is it affecting your overall cost as opposed to just the energy you're using?
Yeah, sure, just like everybody else, right? Everything's going up because of raw materials, because of the inputs for raw materials, labor. My little factory in Lenore can fit in Milliken's cafeteria, so not so sure that's a relevant question for me in terms of my energy spend every year. But we're all seeing it, right? No matter what you buy, everything has to do with just increased inputs in general.
Okay. Well, look, we covered the past with our histories. I think we did a pretty good job bringing out the present. Why don't we transition now to the future? And as you lean into the future, what innovations in what areas what do you expect to be game changers? Things like AI, automation, IO-based products. Are they in the mix, and how far along are we, and what are your expectations? Let's go to Leib to start with.
So for us, and I think we all, you think about innovation, it's almost cliche to say, right? We all think about innovation and what those new innovations may be. But for us, it is really leveraging technology and how we participate in the development of the technology and becoming much more data informed. I think that's one of the big changes within Glen Raven over the last 10 years is how we make decisions and creating the data and being able to do the analytical work that will allow us to be more data informed in all the decisions that we're making. From a technology standpoint, for us, we've been in a transition for 30 years now, moving from a vertically oriented manufacturing company to a marketing company that has invested capital in manufacturing assets globally. And we've been tuning our portfolio along those lines. It's kind of the long-term vision that we have for Glen Raven. So we're looking at the markets that we serve, and if we don't have a clear strategic path to help our current and prospective customers win, then we need to be doing something different. And that's one of the things that, a lot of the companies here, Glen Raven, 142 years old, a lot of people ask, well, you're in the textile industry, you're a 142-year-old company, but it's been the ability to transform, to both leverage new technologies, to help partner to create the new technologies that we're all deploying today. That's how you become 142 years old. And so for us, we'll continue on that path. And, my hat's off to the Gans, because it's a privately held company. A lot of times you have emotional attachments to markets, to geography, and what they embraced early on in the history of their company is the ability to transform and the willingness to leave markets and the willingness to make investments in completely new areas to continue to remain relevant more broadly. So again, whether it's polymer science, the technologies, we're scaling up 3 plants now, working with our suppliers, a lot of the partners we've had for a number of years, how to utilize new technology that will allow us to do some of the things we talked about earlier, less water, less energy, but also what are the new technologies that we can deploy that will allow us to create new and unique products for our customers, because that is how all of you continue to win in the U.S. If you're successful in the textile industry in the U.S. today, then I'm going to suggest that you're doing something that is pretty unique. And so therefore, how do we continue to push the envelope on that and continue to press the whole idea of innovation to remain relevant?
I guess you have a good point. When your grandfather invents pantyhose and you choose to exit the business, that's a pretty big step.
Yeah, well, some of our transformation was proactive and some of it was reactive. We've had to exit some entire markets, but it has been the willingness of the Glen Raven family. And, today, I would be the 4th generation, not a family member, and as Jeff Price would tell you, I'm the first non-family CEO. It's really best to be the second non-family CEO. But the fact of the matter is, Glen Raven is really just coming off of their 3rd generation of leadership. So they've had continuity and they've had leadership within the family who have had vision and had the will to take on and explore new frontiers.
Thank you. Following up with that, Jeff, what do you think? Is there innovations that you're looking at to be game changers, things like AI, automation, bio-based products?
Yes, to all of the above. At the end of the day.
It's kind of a softball.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, anytime that we can combine science with textiles, we're going to win. And that is one of the things that Milliken has the luxury of, having our special chemical division with us and combining those 2 things. And that goes way back in our history too, because at the end of the day, it was water-based technologies for things like Bircher back in the early 60s, where our chemical division ultimately came out of. So it's a good collaboration within the company to try to find those problems and to create solutions, unique solutions for them. I think all of us, you can go to Eddie's plants, or you can go to Parkdale, or you can go to Milliken. You can see lots of examples of automation. We're going to have to double down on that, in my opinion, and to really make it work. And not only from a cost standpoint, just from a labor availability standpoint. We're going to have to make smart fabrics, and the industry, and I think the consumer is struggling with what that really looks like. But we'll figure that out. But we're also going to have smart plants. Right now, a lot of us in our plants, we have equipment that are spread out that has lots of nice gadgets on the piece of equipment, but those gadgets don't talk to anything else in the plant, and much less to anybody else anywhere else. So we're going to have to figure out how to get to Industry 4.0 within this industry in order for us to be able to create modern data frameworks, to be able to put depositories out there, to be able to combine what I mentioned earlier, the machine data and the non-machine data, the quality, the customer complaints, the customer concerns, etc. All that into some kind of AI that will learn upon itself. We got to use AI in regard to the automation too, whether it be visual inspection techniques or other ways, so that we can not only replace people that we can't find, but also create an advantage where we can actually do better than the human eye can do. So all those things are in play to keep us competitive going forward. You know, if you look back at history, I think that there were concerns and opportunities that, while defined differently, were just as challenging to this industry. And I don't think this one will be one that we can't solve either. So I'm looking forward in my retirement years to understanding to see how this industry does just that.
Eddie, would you like to follow up with that?
You know, when I first came to the U.S., I was working in Leib in '86, but I came here in '87. I was working with this guy called Max Cranfield, and some of you may know him. He passed away actually just this week, and he was the king of automation. And I was a mechanical engineer, but I was in industrial engineering. And what that means is I was standing for 8 to 12 hours watching somebody work with a time clock. And actually doing times these days in leisure, because you have a lot more automation. It's digital, but it's hard to be watched working, but it's also hard to watch somebody work for 12 hours. And one of the reasons we were doing all of that was to understand what was the work that could be automated. And as Jeff said, you go to Unifi plants, thanks to Max Cranfield and many other people that came after him, we're fairly automated, but we need to go to the next level of automation. Because of the labor, because again, the carpal tunnel syndrome, because you can't find people, but you also have to do what Jeff said, which is connect all the dots. We've created some dashboards in our company, just in the last 6 months, that I don't understand why we never had them before, but what created the need was this whole COVID thing. It says, I need to know more information, and I need to spread that information to more people so they can react more quickly, and not waste their time on stuff that doesn't matter. We just waste a lot of time. And again, go back to, if you want to be a sustainable company, eliminate waste, whether that's energy, time, and you have more satisfied people when they're working on stuff that really matters, instead of, you know, keying and stuff into a spreadsheet. I discovered pivot tables, I think it was in 1994 or 95 when pivot tables came out. And I thought this was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I no longer had to use Access to program some stuff. I could instantly visualize what I wanted to see and make it happen. But we still use a lot of pivot tables today, we still use a lot of Excel, but the companies that move beyond Excel are the companies that have truly embraced automation, truly embraced artificial intelligence, and truly have eliminated a lot of wasted work. I mean, Excel is still fantastic and powerful, but it is a hindrance to progress because it means somebody still has to interface with that to capture the data. And I think we're not there yet. We are going to get there, but to get there, sometimes, like you try to herd cats sometimes, and it's very hard to do that. But the only way to do that is to move the food. And we're, as a company, trying to move the food. We want to direct our employees to work towards things that are more valuable. And that does something, sometimes mean just walking away from things that you thought were important all your life.
Thank you. Cameron, are there innovations that you're looking forward to integrating into your company?
I think that there's untold possibilities of innovations going forward. My granddaddy was born in '26, and he was third generation owner and manager of Hamrick Mills, and I love listening to him on telling how the computer chip changed the industry. And I think that within my lifetime that I'll see, you know, of course, much more. For Hamrick Mills, you know, we look at speed as far as being innovative, trying to get more panels out per man hour. We look at fibers, and like we talked about, the sustainability, the sustainable products that we can offer to the market. There's untold innovations within our partners on the dye finishing side with chemistries, and how that'll help make the industry more competitive. And the biggest thing is with the innovation that we have to be smart enough to define what we need as an investment, and then to have a strategic plan on how we can implement that and make it pay off and make it work. So right now, at the current moment, we're buying new equipment, new looms for speed purposes, and we look forward to seeing any further automation and working with everybody on this panel to try to get there, because we have to compete.
Super. Amy, as you lead your company into the future, what do you see in terms of innovation and where does it take you?
Well, I think I touched on it the last time I was talking more about, sort of cutting edge technology that we're vetting right now in the dyeing and finishing space. And certainly the circularity or sustainability of products that we're constantly innovating and developing. We put a VP of textile innovation in place in January, and so that's how committed we are to it. There's some things I can't talk about, but I can say that we've carved out some production space within our Ohio headquarters for some unique capabilities coming down the pike. So we're just as a company, and we're very much invested in just new technologies and innovation, and again staying relevant. I love this industry, and I've got a lot of gas left in my tank, so we're going to just continue to get out there and get after it. So,
thank you, Charles. If you want to help us,
mine will be real quick. And the gas comment was the previous question about energy, but Jeff talked about technology inside the plant, and we got to spend a lot of time and effort on innovation there. But one thing that I think about quite a bit, and this is just one core category, but a number of years ago, no apparel was non-woven. And then it enters healthcare, and then it enters another market. Was it 2 weeks ago, Nike launched fleece, and 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was on the fashion runway. They sprayed it on a model, and the fabric had drape. So what's next? You talk about disruptive technology and what the future holds. Think about that. Think about that for a second. It kind of keeps me up, right? We own spinning frames, a lot of them. Don't need that. And so when we think about innovations and what's coming, I think about that example of what happened, what just happened in non-woven technology. One of the single largest brands in the world introduced a non-woven sweatshirt. Doesn't look bad. Haven't seen it yet. Don't wear it. But what else is coming? What else is coming for our industry, right? Because that's just one piece. What's going to happen in footwear, right? Footwear looks a lot different today, doesn't it? A lot of knitted top stuff. So where are we going? What's happened? There's actually some non-woven footwear that you see out there with different brands. And wow, right? And printing technology. So we think about what is this textile business going to look like? And what do we own? Is it going to be a part of the future? Anyhow, things that keep you up at night in terms of what the future holds. There's some disruptive technologies out there I'm excited about. Luckily, and for those of you who know Andy Warlick, technology is an easy sell to him. So if we find something we want to invest in technology, taking a project into Mr. Warlick's office and saying we'd like to buy this, pretty easy, right? Parkdale loves buying new technology and working on innovation. So, with that, we think the future's bright, but the disruption coming, I think, could be substantial over the next 15 years.
Well, Parkdale has always been an early adopter of technology, the quantum clears, the carding, any number of innovations, and not just ring spinning, but other forms of spinning.
Yes. And there's some others out there, and we've actually just invested in some others that really the world doesn't quite know about yet. So, we kind of have some spinning going on behind walls, and really exciting stuff and game changing when it comes to speed and energy usage and sustainable. So it's, the future's bright. We're excited.
Jeff, you had a comment?
Yeah, Cameron and Charles's comments made me think of something that, takes it to a broader perspective in this room as I look around everybody. And since Leib has already dated me, I'll go out on a limb here. So, to put it in perspective on technology in this industry, and to you personally, when I graduated from college, the personal computer had not been invented yet. And how many of you in this room do not have a personal computer now? And I remember when Milliken first introduced the personal computer, the only way we could get one was we had to eliminate a position. So I think about the opportunities of the future the same way that I look back and to think about what the personal computer did for everyone, not just this industry. Think about it in the same context as cell phones. Most of you can relate to that one in the room. So to me, it's an exciting opportunity. And as long as we ask the right questions, we'll get the right answers.
Yeah, Milliken actually had some pretty interesting behind closed doors projects. I mean, we were talking about the Millitron in the 70s and how that technology comes through today. And digital printing is just getting its legs in textiles. And here you are making printing carpets in the mid-70s with it.
1972 is when we first introduced our first Millitron machine for digital carpet.
And then, of course, we all, or many of us, are aware of Mr. Milliken's penchant for destroying machines as opposed to selling them into the used market. And do you have any comment on that? I mean, that was kind of an interesting vision for technology. Was I'm done with it; it's going away.
Well, yeah, I think part of it was a competitive thought process, and that we were innovating so fast, and equipment was changing so fast at that point, and we were putting the newest technologies in our plants, that our old technology was probably better than what a lot of our competitors probably had. So it was pretty insightful on his part at the time to go ahead and just take the right off
Get it off the market.
Get it off the market.
Very good. Well, as leaders, let's talk about the future. We have about a half hour to go. Why don't we each take a turn, not myself, and let's talk about the vision for your future. I know, we're here today celebrating SYFA's 50th anniversary. It's probably a little crazy to ask you, where do you see your company in the next 50 years? But if we could go out 10, 20, you guys today have outlined many of the challenges in the industry, some of the trends. But as individuals, where do you see it? Do you see it increased headcounts? You had some really interesting things about, we're making it out of the same products. But let's start off with Leib. Leib, you guys have always been forward-thinking. That flag on the moon says a lot.
Thanks for that. For us, and I mentioned it in my last segment, that we're really looking to continue on this journey that we've been on, from a more manufacturing-oriented company to a marketing-oriented company, and that includes, yes, consumer-facing brands. We have brands Umbrella now. We have Dixon in Europe. And some other supporting brands, but we want to create, there'll be a portfolio around that, and we also want to continue on with our global reach. We said now that there was a time when we were just a company that had people selling internationally, right? But we didn't really become a global company until the late 80s, early 90s, and so we're looking for opportunities wherever. Around the globe where we feel like we can, again, where we have relevance and where we feel like we can help our customers win. One of the things I think that really just can speak more about how we think about the future is, I mentioned earlier about the company that we have in India, which it's a geotextile company. That was the basis for it. We had a North American company, but also we wanted to be a part of the Modi government build out of infrastructure in India and then the rest of the world. So we have great partners there. We went out and sought those partners. And so we showed up with the geotextile products, but we didn't really have the design and engineering, the bandwidth to be able to do that. So we said, we'll forward integrate. We hired a couple of hundred civil engineers and set up engineering and design. And so we started designing projects with our products. And then you couldn't find enough of the contractors to take on the infrastructure build that they were looking to do. So we forward integrated, and all of a sudden now we're an end-to-end provider and infrastructure build out, building some of the largest soil retention projects in India and in other parts of the world with vertical landfills and others. And then we get, and they said, well, we got to wait till we can lay this bridge. And so now we're building precast bridges. So my point is, it's just kind of a philosophy that we have is we feel like we can continue to add value within a market sector or within a new market sector, then that is how we think about ourselves, is how we continue to add value further down the value chain. So that will remain prevalent for Glen Raven as we move forward.
Very good. Amy, any thoughts, future of your company, future trends that you think are going to take hold and steer things?
Sure. So I think the industry has seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions, quite a bit, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. And we ourselves have acquired 3 companies in the 25 years that I started the business. So that's certainly on the table, organic growth by acquisition. You know, everyone asks me, why did you open Lenore? It's not normally your business model where you are investing in your own brick and mortar manufacturing facility. You partner with companies to do that. We did, but we had a patent on we have a patent on a product that supports the U.S. military and allied militaries throughout the world. And the current factories couldn't keep up with our growing need, and face mask plastic hit them, right? So what did they do? They took all their looms and put it on face mask plastic, which they should have. But we still had increased demand. So that's why Lenore exists and why we put it in place. So as those things happen, that's a product that, you know, when you invest financially in patents and your time and energy, and you know that the product is saving lives and protecting our soldiers, which again, we're very passionate about protecting the warfighter, we can't let that die, right? We have to do something about it. So for us, seeing the increase in Lenore activity, we're supporting a lot of the Ukraine efforts. We're very grateful for that, to be able to say we can support Ukraine. And a lot of our products being shipped overseas to Europe to do that. We had to do a lot of investments in different equipment over the last year, so I see that happening. I see us, you know, we're solution providers, right? And we just listen, and we happen to have a seat at the table at a lot of those opportunities, and we take those very seriously, and we're thankful for them, and we do something about it. And that's just, as cliche as that may be, that's how we've grown, and that's how we will grow.
Thank you, that's great. Thank you. Cameron, you want to?
Sure. Well, thank you, Charles, because that's exactly what I said when we were talking about the automation and innovation. And I felt a little lonely when I said it, because I felt like I was just thinking in dollar cents, but speed. I think the speed is important because that creates competitiveness. But I do think there's room for growth and investments. I think it'll be, for somebody like me, I think it's going to be in the hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere. And I think just that every topic that we talk about today is going to be at play, the partnership, the synergy, where can you fit in, where can you have your competitive advantage and help your customer succeed. You have to be open-minded about the sustainability, full circle, about labor, your plant layout, the products that you offer, and be totally customer-focused. And of course, like Charles was saying, efficiencies through innovation. And I have to also add that I think a lot of our future depends on Kim Glass and the legislative initiatives that she does, and gives us beneficial laws to compete and to continue on this great industry that we have. But that's the way I see the future, is in everything that we've said on the panel today is the future, the sustainability, the synergies, the innovation, speed, cost competitiveness. And that's the way I see it. Thank you.
Very good. Eddie, why don't you take a swag at the future?
Yeah, the future. There's a great quote by Bill Gates, which I use all the time. He says, people always overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. And when you think about that, the speed is important. It isn't big needs, small, fast needs, slow, but at the end of the day, you have to be thoughtful and you have to take risk. And this industry, this organization's been here 50 years because a lot of people took a lot of risk. And some people aren't here. But the reason why we're all here today is because every single one of us, individually and all of our companies, have taken the right risk at the right time. And for us, the risk we took was to keep on, the risk we're currently taking is to keep on investing in the U.S. We're spending a lot of money, Boricon, the bond was here somewhere, We're spending a lot of money on our work on because we believe the industry is going to be a viable industry. We believe we have to be more cost competitive in our manufacturing base. I'm sure a lot of people don't think we're very cost competitive right now because of what's happened over the last year on raw materials, but we are going to be here, and we're going to be here because we have invested primarily in our people, in our equipment, and also in trying to provide more sustainable solutions to those who want it. It's vitally important we reduce the carbon footprint. I'm not a scaremonger. I don't know what 1.5 degrees means, but I do know all of us as an industry, in our industry, can do more to reduce waste and increase value. And that's what's going to drive us forward as a company. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeff, as a leader in one of the most innovative companies in the history of textiles, can you take us home about the future and what you see?
I'll answer the question using a question that I got from a Milliken family member back in July. I've already announced my retirement, and they asked me, so, from your perspective, what is Milliken's strength? And I said, over the 40 plus years, as I've said, the company doesn't look anything today like it did when I joined it. But yet the company is stronger today than when I joined it. And to me, the core of that is our ability to adapt, our ability to change. And I think that is one of the things that this room and this industry has been able to prove itself again and again, that we can adapt. If you give us an equal playing field, if you give us the opportunity, we can do that. And I think the last thing I'll leave you with is a very short phrase that Mr. Milliken used to use a lot, and it's probably the one that has stuck with me over all these years. And it's quite simply, there is dignity in work. And when you think about that, and you think about our production associates, and you think about what we do, there is dignity in the work that we do. And you should be very proud of that.
Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of SYFA, I'd like to thank our panelists today for sharing their valuable insights and taking the time out of some extremely busy schedules to be with us. So if you could join me in thanking them for the show.